So I married a film critic.
Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic. I'm your co-host, Julia.
Hey, you guys! It's Barry, where's the film critic? And we're talking about Richard Donner's 1985 classic. Not a cult classic. No, people call it a cult classic. It's not. It is a classic. A cult classic, you see, listeners, is a movie that bombed in the theater that people discover afterwards. That's the rule. And they've been calling Goonies a cult classic for decades. And this drives me crazy because, no, this thing was one of the biggest hits of its year. It was such a big part of my childhood, and anybody who's in their 40s like me remembers this thing being a blockbuster. And now they're like, it's a cult classic. It is not a cult classic.
Wow, the film critic coming in hot tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are. Wow. Okay. So this movie came out in 1985?
Yep.
Yeah.
Summer of 85. This is a big summer. Back to the Future. What else? And then the mind goes blank. Fletch came out. European Vacation came out. Clearly, this is one of the Explorers, one of my favorite movies. It was a good summer. Rambo, First Blood Part 2. Yeah, big summer, 85.
Okay, I was 5, so I did not see this movie until, you know what? Until college.
You know, I got to say, like, I came so close to seeing this in the theater, and this happened twice with my mom, same year, too. Mom and I would go shopping, and we walk by the Clifton movie theater, and the poster would be up, and she's like, ooh, Barry, do you want to go see that? This movie and Return to Oz, same thing. I looked at the poster, and I was like, it looked kind of creepy. So I was like, no. I didn't regret Return to Oz because I did see it later on. I'm like, that movie is terrifying.
That movie's creepy.
I love Return to Oz, but the Goonies, I do regret not seeing it in the theater with my mom. That would have been super cool.
Yeah, because you were like 8.
That was perfect. Yeah. I really wish I had seen it in the theater because, of course, it comes on HBO, and it was like clockwork every time it was on. Like, I gotta watch the Goonies.
Wow. Yeah. So it has probably been 20 years since I've seen this movie.
Wow. Yeah. You know, it might be that long for me too. Like I was telling you, I think last time we both saw this was in college. It's been a long time for me. And just same thing with you. We both know it. So we're overly familiar with it. So.
Well, I don't know about that. But I saw it so many times that I think my junior year that I just like kind of swore it off.
You said in a previous episode that this is one of those movies that you would just people would quote it to death. You always went to parties where they would show it. And I told you, like, for me, it's Princess Bride, Monty Python, The Holy Grail, Grease. Those movies, like, I don't care if I ever see Grease. If our little girl gets to a point where, like, I want to see Grease, I'll watch Grease with her. But, like, I don't ever want to see Grease again.
Yeah, well, it was one of those situations where it was like, oh, these like cute guys hanging out with like my roommates, and everyone's like, oh, movie night. So the first time you do it and you watch Goonies, you're like, okay, that was fun. Well, I mean, the 5th time comes around and you're like, I'm out. I can't do it again. I cannot watch this again.
You didn't think, like, you know, these guys are kind of cute and hot. I mean, maybe if I get a Goonies t-shirt and get a little pirate hat and go to the Goonies party.
No, I was like...
Start knocking out those quotes.
Yeah. I think that's when I was like, I don't think I should be with a movie quote person. It's just not going to work for me.
It really worked out for us then.
It did.
Because you know how I feel about that.
Yeah,
when people quote movies, I'm just like, ugh. To tune you out.
Like, I want to do it and annoy you, but I don't want you to do it to me.
Well, you find other ways to annoy me, so it's worked out perfectly fine.
Okay.
We got to say too, this episode is a request from my friend Michelle. Thank you, Michelle, for requesting the Goonies. Have not seen this movie in decades, so it was fun to revisit it. And we love our requests.
We do. So if you have a request, let us know. Okay, so this movie opens up crazy with a jailbreak.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, the movie is a few minutes old, and we get the first murder in the film. The Fratelli brothers, or Joey Pants, is Joey Pantoliano, who's a wonderful, versatile character actor. I think most people know him from The Matrix, though check out Bound, because that is his masterpiece. Anyway, he is the one driving the car, and the one breaking out of jail is Jake, played by another wonderful character actor, Robert Davi, one of my favorite Bond villains in License to Kill a few years later. Jake is, it's such a crazy opening, because the guard goes into his cell. He's hanging. He's dead. He hung himself. I always remember this as a kid. Like, it's just such a shock because he opens up the note and it's like, "You schmuck, do you think I would have killed myself?" And he like springs to life and goes, kills myself, smiles, and then murders the guard.
Right.
It's insane. But he manages to just walk out of the police station.
Yeah, he walks
just
out.
Walk out.
Yeah, casually.
But then Joey Pants, playing the other brother, is pouring gasoline everywhere. So not only is this a successful jailbreak with Mama Fratelli, played by Anne Ramsey, about to drive away, they set the parking lot of the police station on fire.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop the police from getting into a chase with them.
Yeah, and this is the introduction of our characters, because as the police station is as the police chase is roaring down the streets, we meet each and every one of the members of this gang called the Goonies. The opening credits roar by, literally, and we meet the real star of this movie, David Grusin, who composed the music. I love the music to this movie. I'm serious.
He's the real star.
The real star. I love the music to this movie. This movie, not to get too far ahead of itself, but this movie is chaotic. And sometimes it's not a good thing, okay? Sometimes this movie is just like 7 or 8 people talking at the same time, screaming. This film, it's brisk, but it's also a little haywire. But that music by David Grusin is so thrilling that I think the movie, at times the movie isn't that exciting, but the music makes it more so. And at times the imagery and the music just, it's so thrilling. Yeah, and this theme music by David Grusin, they used to use it in movie trailers all the time. I love it. I think it's wonderful stuff.
Okay, so we meet all the kids, the boys, right?
Well,
now.
I mean, let's face it, Goonie fans are going to listen to this. So we got to go like Goonie by Goonie.
Okay, Goonie by Goonie. Here you go. Sean Astin.
Sean Astin is Mikey.
The
Yes.
asthmatic leader of the Goonies. Wow, Wikipedia.
So sensitive. Wouldn't it be a leader who's plagued with asthma? No, he's the asthmatic leader. Okay, whatever, Wikipedia. All right. So Josh Brolin plays, of course, the eldest of the Goonies, Brand, the older brother of Mikey. Jeff Cohen, who is now apparently a very successful and handsome lawyer, but he made his film debut as Chunk. Chunk. Oh, man, we'll talk about Chunk. And then, of course, Corey Feldman, who was a big star around this time as Mouth.
Which, by the way, I hate that nickname. Mouth? I mean,
He won't stop talking.
I know, but
It fits.
I know, but they couldn't come up with something else.
And I got to say, like, for the first...
Like Gabbers or something?
Gabbers, man, you are not going to do a rewrite of that screenplay. You are getting so fired off the Goonie team. Well, Corey Feldman, for the first 20 minutes of this movie, he is upstaged by his Purple Rain t-shirt. I just got to say, like, he's doing good work, but I never pay attention. I'm always watching that t-shirt. So let's see, Q Kwan, oh my gosh, who made such a huge comeback this year in Everything Everywhere All at Once. He's so good in that. But this is back when he was a child actor, coming hot right after Temple of Doom, back to back.
Yeah, let's stop there because we haven't met the other ones yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so those are like our main 5 guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we meet them all in this montage.
No, the girls too?
We meet everybody. Yeah, the
Oh.
car roars by. Yeah, we meet Data as he's going from he's trying out his latest invention. We meet Andy, played by the lovely Carrie Green, during cheerleader practice. Her best friend is Steph. I think we see her in the cheerleading practice scene too.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we meet everybody.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, we meet all the Goonies. The car chase kind of fades out. Like Mouth has this really funny scene where he's helping his dad with a sink, and the car chase is roaring by, and he thinks it's the TV.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, listeners, like some of this I'm recalling because I just saw it the other night with Julia, but like I know this movie. It's like reciting song lyrics by Kaja Gugu. It's been in my head for so long.
I don't know if anyone will get that reference. Okay.
If you're my age, they will know Kaja Gugu. Shy, shy, hush, hush, eye to eye.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we meet all the kids,
Yes.
and the 5 boys end up at Sean Astin's house, at Mikey and Brand's house. Yeah. And I don't know, lots of silly banter and hijinks.
I was telling my brother, like, this movie thinks it's a Robert Altman movie. There's like 6 people talking at once. Like, there's no focus in any of these scenes. It seems like these actors are just, I mean, Chris Columbus allegedly wrote this based on a story by Spielberg. Like, was there a script? I mean, I don't know. Like, I do kind of wonder about that because at times it's very endearing and it's like, oh man, it's very natural. These seem like real kids. And at times it's just like, what's this scene even about? I mean, these guys are just, I mean, this is like first day at acting camp.
I mean, the first 30 minutes is just kind of them at the house.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
And by the way, I got to ask this. Like, they allege that this, and forgive me, I've never been to Astoria, that the movie takes place around a place called the Goondocks, hence the Goonies. Wouldn't it be the Boondocks? Shouldn't this movie be called the Boonies? Shouldn't it be Boonies Never Say Die?
Oh my gosh. Goonies fans are going to send all their hate mail to us.
I just derailed the whole thing, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so the plot of that gets this movie going is kind of strange.
It's completely. It's interesting. I do admittedly like the way it all comes together, but yeah, it begins with this violent police chase, and then it becomes the kids talking about the treasure, but initially it's about this tragedy that's awaiting them.
Yeah, so basically there is the Mikey and Brand's house is in foreclosure. And we don't know why, but the dad works at the university. He's a teacher or something.
I think so.
And we don't know why they haven't been paying their mortgage or why it's in foreclosure. But there's an expanding country club that's buying up all of these homes. And it makes no sense because Astoria is on the side of a mountain. Like, what are they going to do? Build a country club with a golf course on a mountainside?
Frisbee golf.
Frisbee golf.
One of those golf courses with one of the giant like windmills and the big shoe.
So
does it have to be a respectable golf course? This is the 80s, man.
Oh,
this is the height of tackiness. They could be putting like a golf course and a Chuck E. Cheese next door.
Because they do show like in one like later on they do show like the athletic club, so it's not like this town doesn't have something like that already.
Yeah, I mean look at this town. I mean, yeah, it's probably like, they probably got like like a Bennigan's, and this is the 80s, so I'm sure they got like a Radio Shack and a Sam Goody. Mm-hmm. Just gonna name all the 80s stuff I can know. Kenny Rogers Roasters. Those were Roy Rogers at this time.
Okay, but
Toys R Us.
Can we talk about the mom for a second?
Yeah, this is Mary Kay Place. I think it's Mary Kay Place. Did I get that right?
So the mom comes home.
No, Mary Ellen Trainor, who used to be married to Robert Zemeckis. I love her. She's in all the Lethal Weapon movies. She's a lovely character actress. Yeah, so Irene.
Okay,
it's Mikey and Brand's mom.
Irene comes home with Rosalita, the family's housekeeper.
Poor Lupe Ontiveros, who later was in Selena. She played the woman who killed Selena.
Yeah.
She's a great character actress. I love Lupe Ontiveros.
She only speaks Spanish. Okay, but the mom comes home with her, and the mom has a broken arm.
How? Yeah, that's
She has her arm in a sling.
Subplot, yeah, like where that went, I don't know. I no idea. And the mom is kind of neither here nor there the whole movie, so it is like a strange character detail.
She's way too upbeat to be like getting foreclosed on in 24 hours.
Yeah. She's
like, oh, I brought, the housekeeper over. She's going to help me clean, but, I don't speak Spanish. Oh, no.
They're about to be foreclosed. She has one arm. Should she really be hiring a housekeeper?
I don't know. Well, she's going to help her pack. But
she's got 5 boys.
They're not all brothers. They don't live there.
Well, I'm sure they get the other Goonies to join in and help pack.
Okay, but she asks Mouth to translate for her.
I don't know if it's still politically correct to laugh at this scene, but I do. It's so lowbrow, but I give it to the movie. Corey Feldman, his Spanish is not convincing, but like it's fun. I do like the because the subtitles reveal the horrifying things he's telling her, which obviously have nothing to do with reality. Yeah,
the mom's like, pack up this drawer, pack up that drawer, blah blah blah, and he's speaking to her like, this is where we keep the drugs.
I do love the way Corey Feldman pronounces cockroaches. I'll admit that. It's good stuff.
So she's just horrified, and Rosalita is horrified, and the mom's just like, oh, thank you, Mouth, you're so helpful. It would be like if your mom brought home a housekeeper. I feel like it'd be like the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. No, Marty and I. If Marty and I spoke Spanish as eloquently as Corey Feldman, yes, we would.
Yeah. You would totally pull this prank on her.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Comedy gold.
So they exit, and I don't know, when Chunk comes over.
Oh, man.
You really did not like this part.
It's like, Chris Columbus, do you even like these characters? Because, man, way to take away the dignity of this character as the introduction. That's just, I don't like that. I tell my students, my film students, this all the time. You can really tell if the writer loves the characters. This makes me kind of wonder that, because it's one thing to write the fat kid. It's another thing I mean, it's mean, all right? It's mean-spirited.
Okay, well, say what it is.
And I know, I mean, the character's name is Chunk. It's not like short for Chunkowski, okay? It's like we don't know his real Lawrence, or Lawrence is his name. Okay, all right, okay, his name is Lawrence, but like we don't know, like the thing about this character, the driving thing, he's fat, okay? He's a
And
fat
clumsy.
kid. And fat and clumsy, and he won't shut up. So, and look, I've had friends like this. So on the one hand, it's like, yes, certainly in my childhood, I had friends like that. But like the fact that his name is Chunk, and the fact that he has to do the truffle shuffle, which is to take off his shirt, make his belly jiggle in order to get admittance into the Goonie den. It's like, that's mean. All right. I'm sorry. This is what you do to the villain of the film. You don't do this to like what ends up being one of the heroes of the story.
Yeah, one of the heroes.
So maybe that's the thing. Like he redeems himself. No. I think I think this movie is mean to this character.
Yeah.
In a way that goes beyond the characters being mean to him.
I agree. Yeah, because he shows up. He's like, let me in. And they're like, you have to do the truffle shuffle. So he pulls up his shirt and jiggles around. And then
a lot of 80s comedies did this. Police Academy was famous for this. They had like the fat kid, or the gay kid, or the other, whatever the other was, who wasn't like the handsome white charismatic kid. They always had him do like this degrading stuff, and it's something I don't miss about this decade. There could be some really, really mean jokes at the expense of the characters, as opposed to being about the characters.
Yeah. Well, and this is where Chris Columbus like shines through with his like pre-Home Alone, like, because of...
I wouldn't even say pre-Home Alone. If anything, it's like the dude is consistent. He loves these Rube Goldberg traps.
Yes.
He loves this crap.
Yes.
Yeah. Any chance he could have, like, knocking down dominoes and like,
Yes.
like the dude is, I think maybe Adventures in Babysitting has that too. Like, I think everything he's ever done has this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
And Data is like the embodiment of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole movie has this stuff.
Oh,
in
well,
it.
but we haven't even gotten to One Eyed Willie, who's like the original Kevin McAllister.
Yeah. All right. So finally, Chunk gets let in, and eventually the boys go up to the attic.
Man, yeah, this is like some forced plot. And like, again, like I wondered, when they're dealing with the script, I mean, was Richard Donner like, okay, cut. Okay, guys, no. Sorry, Corey, the line is, shut up, you stupid turd burger. And Sean, you go, no, you're the turd burger, you butthead, you totally suck. Okay, let's take it back from butthead. Okay, and action. Like, again, was there a script? Because it doesn't seem like there's a script. And even the way they introduce the pirate aspect of it, it's very forced. They suddenly bring it up. Suddenly it's like, hey, let's go in the attic. How exciting is that? Why?
Yeah, and then Mikey's like, no, guys, come on. My dad wouldn't like that. Come on, guys. And it's like, okay, well, your dad should have been packing up this stuff weeks ago, since you're being foreclosed on tomorrow.
To be clear, listeners, I'm on this movie's side. I grew up with this movie. It's comfort food for me. But, being in my 40s now, and all the movies I've sat through, all the screenplays I've read, and, and loving movies as much as I do, the script for this it's not great, okay? And the kids could only do so much. A lot of them, it was their first movie. And they all have a lot of charisma, and they're all very natural, surprisingly, as big as the performances, as big as the characters are. But this is, there had to be an easier way to integrate the pirate subplot.
Okay, can you talk about the lighting, though? Because when they're downstairs in the house, it's daytime. Mm-hmm. They go upstairs, and it's almost like, I don't know, there's like some kind of storm happening outside. And then when they leave the house, it's still daytime.
That's called lazy, inconsistent filmmaking by
right.
Richard Donner.
Okay.
This movie is famous. I'll say this really quickly because I didn't even notice it until we watched it the other night. And then there's been a few interviews with Sean Astin talking about that subsequently. There's all sorts of stuff in this movie. There are lines that are in jokes among the cast that are in the cut, and they don't make any sense. There, of course, is the way a character... I'll mention this since it doesn't even pop up in the movie. There's an octopus that is referenced but not shown in the film. Apparently, Sean Astin gives a shout out to one of his siblings in the movie, and that stayed in the... There's so much stuff. And there's also a scene, not to get too far ahead, but it bears mentioning, this scene where Sloth and Chunk cause a car accident. Do you remember that? Where
Yeah.
They lift up the pipes, and within a matter of seconds you hear, ah! It's crazy and silly and cartoonish, and we're supposed to just go along with it, but the word is sloppy. There's a lot of really sloppy stuff going on here.
So while they're up in the attic, this is where Mikey finds this map, and it's like behind glass.
Yeah.
And just like, I don't know, whenever they want something to break, they just hand it over to Chunk, and he's like, hey guys, whoa. And then it like breaks, and they're like, oh, thanks.
And to Jeff Cohen's credit, he sells it. The character is supposed to be irritating, and he is, thanks to Jeff Cohen's insistently obnoxious performance. And we'll get to the interrogation scene, but like basically Cohen proves that he's got comic timing, he's good, and I think the idea was like he's like a miniature John Candy. I think that's the idea, but it doesn't quite play because Candy had layers and warmth, and this kid is just so obnoxious.
So, but what do you think about Sean Astin? Do you think he's a little too earnest about this One Eyed Willie situation?
I think he's very green here as an actor. I think he could have sold, because the character basically becomes obsessed. He's the driving force of the whole pirate thing. And he has a monologue at the midpoint of the film of, this is our time, which I think, as a kid, I was like, wow, he's right. But I look at it now, I go, maybe another take, Mr. Donner.
Yeah.
And it's fine, because they're all endearing, and they're all kind of adorable, and they're all definitively 80s kids, and that's fine. But yeah, some of the actors here are better than others.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the young women here, I think, are really strong. And Josh Brolin as well. Astin, I think, work in progress. And he became a great actor, but I wouldn't look at this and say, like, he did The War of the Roses a couple years later, and he's better than that. I mean, this is a starter film for a lot of these actors.
So eventually, the four boys leave Brand and get on their bikes.
Well, they don't just leave him. I mean, they
tie him up.
They tie him up with his weight, whatever that thing is, the stretchy thing.
Well, it reminds me of like a Suzanne Summers, like infomercial that you would, as seen on TV, like order.
I do, yeah. I'd love to see someone tied up with a thigh master, but I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, so they
let the air out of his bike tires.
It's so brutal. Yeah, and they take off, and Cyndi Lauper's theme song starts to play, and the movie is off and running. Yeah.
Yeah. So the boys end up at this like abandoned restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay, so. And don't forget, we've already had 30 minutes of movie to get us to this restaurant.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just a lot of boys just talking about stuff. Yeah, it's it's funny because the movie becomes so plot heavy, but you're absolutely right. I mean, because outside of the jailbreak, which is a lot of information, there is a whole lot of nothing. And at the midpoint of the first act, it's just a lot of boys just, hey, stupid, shut up. Okay, guys. Hey, yeah. Just yeah. To which I feel like I'm an old man now, because I'm just going, oh, I want those kids shut up.
Let's get to the point.
Yes. Story, please.
So they go to the restaurant and they see the Fratellis.
Yeah, they see the Fratellis, and we know something's up because we've seen the beginning of the film, and we know that they're hauling a corpse out of the car. And of course, this is something that Chunk notices right away. The car has bullet holes in them, and the boys know that this is a place that interlocks with the treasure map that they discovered, because they're able to hold up the treasure map, and it aligns with the topography of the mountains in the distance.
Right. So they go in there and they're checking things out, and then they meet the Fratellis.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, yeah, we're just, snooping around kind of a thing. And the Fratellis, they're just trying to keep things, on the down low. They're not.
Just barely, though.
Just barely.
Mrs. Fratelli Mama Fratelli has such a contempt for the boys, which is great. And by the way, I take a moment to talk about the late great Anne Ramsey, who is fantastic. This is the second time we've spoken about her on a podcast. She, of course, was in Deadly Friend. She's the one who loses her head to the basketball. Remember her? Yeah. And of course, she's the Oscar-nominated star of the title role of Throw Mama from the Train.
Deadly Friend to come out at a later date.
That's okay. Yeah, it'll be out soon. But Anne Ramsey. Love Anne Ramsey, big fan of Anne Ramsey, and she's wonderful in this. The role is ridiculous, and she just leans into it, and as do Joel Pantoliano and Robert Davi. They're both completely ridiculous. Although I gotta say, like, something I have kind of a problem with, the characters, the three of them are supposed to be like the Three Stooges, obviously, but the Fratellis are sick.
Yeah.
They're sick. I mean, they are perverse and weird and psychotic and murderous. I don't find them endearing, and I think we're supposed to find them kind of lovable because they're a fractured family unit, and more of that. More on that later. But yeah, I think the actors are given it, but like these characters are disgusting.
Yeah. Well, because Chunk goes downstairs to use the bathroom and sees Sloth tied up. Yeah, and one of the Fratelli brothers is like singing opera to him and not giving him his food.
It's awful. Yeah, Sloth. This is definitely a part of the movie that just does not hold up for me at all. Yeah, this is a mentally impaired man who is tied up in chains in the basement and denied food. It's so twisted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, more than mentally impaired. I mean, his whole head is messed up.
But more so anything. I mean, he's obviously, if he grew up with the Fratellis, he's had a lifetime of abuse of some sort. Yeah. And the movie doesn't shy away from that. Again, like, I guess we're supposed to find it cute and adorable that he becomes one of the Goonies, but anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves with Sloth. But yeah, so we know that the it, as they refer to it, is in the basement.
Right. So then eventually they leave the...
Though I gotta say, Mrs. Fratelli does try to go with the whole restaurant ruse, and she comes back with water that is the color pink. I do love that detail.
Like,
They're
this
so terrible at
water's
faking the restaurant ruse. I
disgusting.
do love that. That's great.
Don't worry, it only has a little bit of lead in it.
Yeah.
But so Brand ends up showing up.
Yeah.
And
As do Andy and
yeah, but
and
so
Steph.
they're all outside, and that's when Mikey is just kind of like, no, come on, you guys, like, we have to find this treasure, like, we have to save our parents' house. And I don't know, I mean, this is a 10-year-old's dream, I guess, that he can save his parents' house by going on a pirate hunt.
Yeah.
Treasure
And
hunt?
look, I was the age of these kids when this movie came out. I was definitely not as cool as a Goonie when I was a child of the 80s, but certainly no, this movie is an absolute 80s kid fantasy, no question.
Okay, we forgot to mention that Brand goes out to get his bike and he ends up stealing this little girl's bike with training wheels.
Right.
And so he's riding it like down the street.
Yeah, we meet the true villain of this movie, Trevor, the yuppie scum, who is it? Oh no, it's Troy. I'm sorry, it's Troy. Troy Perkins. Yeah, the son of the Astoria Country Club's millionaire owner. Yeah, Troy is awful. I mean, this is definitely a Revenge of the Nerd situation where it's like, the underclass, the blue collar versus white collar, and Troy embodies all that is rich and powerful and soulless and empty.
Yeah.
But he's got a great car, and he's got 2 chicks in his car, and he's checking them out, and he's a pig. He's disgusting.
Yeah, so he rolls up next to Brand and like grabs his hand and puts it on the car and then just like speeds off. And I'm thinking, Brand, with all your weightlifting, you couldn't get your hand away? Like, seriously? Troy's not stronger than you.
And it's weird, too, because it's a comedy, and we're just supposed to go with it, but Troy tries to murder him, basically.
Yeah.
And he goes off a cliff, and, that should be the end of that character, but no, it's a movie, so he just dusts himself, and it's okay, no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. But the girls end up leaving Troy.
Yeah.
And going off with the Goonies.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, so Mikey's giving them a little pep talk, and then the Fratellis leave the restaurant. And so they're like, let's just go back in and see if we can find where we need to go. So they go back into the restaurant, and they're just snooping around, trying to figure it out. And Chunk accidentally spills and breaks this water cooler. And the water goes underground. And so that's how they find that they can get into this basement.
Yes.
Oh, but before that, Chunk finds the freezer. And
initially he's picking out an ice cream because more fat kid jokes in this movie.
Ice cream, guys. And then they find a dead corpse.
That scene always freaked me out as a kid. I don't know if I'd call this a scary movie necessarily, but I've always found that scene to be very disturbing. The way the corpse just will not leave this kid alone.
Like falls on them.
Yeah.
Well, the freaky part is they put the corpse back in the freezer and Chunk is like inside the freezer and they just lock him in there.
Yeah.
Which is horrible.
Horrible. Yeah, they're terrible to Chunk.
Yeah.
I had friends, admittedly, that I had, I love them, but I had kind of a disdain for them. I had friends that I wasn't always the nicest to. I was never mean to them the way these kids are awful to Chunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't believe I'm calling him that. It's
okay.
By the way, there's a series of movies called Teen Wolf in the 80s, and there was a character in it called Chubbs, played by Mark Holton. Poor guy. He did 2 movies where he had to play a character called Chubbs, who was defined by his flatulence and his appetite.
Oh, man. That's not good.
The 80s.
So the Fratellis come back and all the kids, minus Chunk, climb into the fireplace. They just go down, down, down. And then they get down there like, oh, no, where's Chunk?
And Chunk appears and they tell him to go to the cops.
Go to the police, yeah. So he leaves and he he just like stops the first car he sees, tells them everything, and it ends up being
tells them everything. And of course it winds up being Robert Davi, who immediately starts singing opera, which is a touch that always kind of disturbed me.
Yeah, so strange. Okay, so now we're underground with the Goonies. And really quickly, one of the girls' glasses gets broken.
This is Martha Plimpton as Steph, yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, no, I'm not going to be able to see anything. And it turns out she sees a lot of things.
Yeah, that's definitely some lazy writing right there. Because that should go somewhere, but no. She adapts very quickly to 2090 vision. By the way, Martha Plimpton, the second time we've talked about her on the show. She, of course, was in Mass last year.
Yes.
Very similar movie to The Goonies. Could be a sequel. Who knows?
Oh my gosh. All right, so they have like a series of, I don't know, shenanigans to walk through.
Yeah, well, it turns out this pirate, One Eyed Willie, not a euphemism at all. One Eyed Willie has set a series of elaborate traps throughout this cave. So think about that for a second. So this pirate who has one eye and is working in darkness was able to set up these extremely elaborate traps that 100 years later still work perfectly.
Yes, and it goes on for how many miles? We don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah. Very, very elaborate, very impressive.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
I know. He must have had a really good crew that was willing to do all this stuff for him.
They're just like, Willie, come on, Willie.
Arr, I'm sick of this.
I know, man. It's like, oh God, the inventor pirate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the first trap is kind of reminds me of Indiana Jones, which is like falling rocks.
The whole movie wants to remind us of Indiana Jones, since it's produced by Mr. Steven Spielberg and brought to you by Amblin, which is the Spielberg company. And even though Spielberg did not direct these films, he's the executive producer and apparently had hands-on. But this is the time when Spielberg was producing every other cool movie that came out in the 80s, everything from Back to the Future, Harry and the Hendersons, Poltergeist. It's a long, long list. And they all feel like all these movies feel like they exist in the same neighborhood. Mm-hmm. Definitely a Spielberg universe, if you will.
Yeah. Do you think that the E.T. kids would like the Goonie kids?
I think they would get along great. Mm. Yeah, I think the only Amblin... Was it Amblin? Yeah, it was. Because Spielberg also... Same year. Young Sherlock Holmes came out the same year. And I love that movie. I'm such a huge fan of that. But, it takes place at the turn of the century. So those kids couldn't have hung out with... Henry and E.T. and Chunk and the gang. But still. But yeah, no, Spielberg movies, people need to talk about that a little more, how they all feel like they're unified. And there have been a few directors who've been accused, like the one that bothers me, I'm actually about to publish an article about that, about how Poltergeist they say it was ghost directed by Spielberg, that the original director, Tobe Hooper, didn't actually direct it. Not true. But Spielberg definitely imposed his vision, his views on so many of these films. I think we need to talk about how they can all be connected, maybe edited into one film.
Interesting.
The Spielberg verse. Yeah.
Can we also talk about how Brand and what's her face?
Andy can't stop sucking face in the cave.
Yes.
They are teenagers.
They can't stop sucking face.
Can't stop sucking face.
And then
some tongue wrestling action.
There's one point where Mikey has to go to the bathroom and then everyone's like, yeah, I have to go to the bathroom. So they just separate to girl cave and a boy cave. And Andy goes to kiss him or make out with him or whatever, and she makes out with Mikey
instead,
and doesn't know it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't...
I mean, for one thing, the fact that he's not wearing a headband should have been the giveaway, because Josh Brolin is never without his headband in this movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, you'd figure you'd notice the difference between... Yeah, I mean, she notices the fact that he has braces.
Which is like, come on.
Yeah.
And then Steph, who supposedly can't see anything, is the one who's like...
She's just like standing to the side watching it like a total perv.
Yeah, exactly. So that's silly.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of silliness in this movie.
There's a lot of silliness. Okay, so then back up top, the Fratellis have Chunk in probably one of the most famous scenes, don't you think? Where they're interrogating him.
I'll say, like, I'm not a fan of Richard Donner as a comedy director, and I know we just lost him recently. He's a former Maui resident, and Richard Donner... I'm a fan of his because of Superman the movie. It came out in 1978, one of my favorite films. I feel like he's a great action guy. I feel like with comedy, he's got a very heavy foot. I hate the movie he did, The Toy, with Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason. That's a whole other discussion. I feel like with comedy, very old school, very Three Stooges. And I think for the most part that works in Lethal Weapon. I do, especially the sequels, which are more comedies than anything. And this movie, I mean, it's you know, Spielberg had a problem with comedy too. I feel like Spielberg is also a guy who just over directs everything. It doesn't feel spontaneous. Everything feels overly planned. You know, it's like one of those One Eyed Willie traps. All that to say, this scene where they interrogate Chunk, for one thing, Jeff Cohen really shines in this scene. It's really funny. It's a joke that goes on for a long time. They keep cutting away from it and going back to it, which just makes it even funnier. And the fact that the actors playing the Fratellis are so funny too, because they're just really letting this kid like do his thing and they're just reacting. I think it's the funniest scene in the movie, and I think it's like one of the few times where the comedy is actually sustained and not drowned out by how noisy and chaotic the movie is.
Yeah. So the Mama Fratelli just tells him, like, you have to tell us everything or I'm gonna blend your hand in this blender. She like throws a tomato in the blender, which is so disgusting. And he's like, so he actually tells them the truth. Like, they went down below through the fireplace, but they're like, come on, you have to tell us everything. And you have to start at the beginning. He's like, everything? So he goes back. And in third grade, he tells them how he did fake throw up in a movie theater and everyone else threw up. And he's just like crying.
He's monologuing, and it goes on for a while. And they cut back to the Goonies, and they cut back to the story, and they cut back to the Goonies. It's great because it's this joke that just gets funnier and funnier because the kid treats it like his last confession.
Yes.
I want you to spill your guts. Tell us everything. Everything.
Everything. Okay, I'll talk. In third grade, I cheated on my history exam. In fourth grade, I stole my Uncle Max's toupee and I glued it on my face when I played Moses in my Hebrew school play. In fifth grade, I knocked my sister Edie down the stairs and I blamed it on the sent me to a summer camp for fat kids. And then once during lunch, I got nuts and I pigged out and they kicked me out. But the worst thing I ever done, I mixed up all this fake puke at home, and then I went to this movie theater, hid the puke in my jacket, climbed up to the balcony, and then I made a noise like this. And then I dumped it over the side. And all the people in the audience, then this was horrible. All the people started getting sick and throwing up all over each other. I never felt so bad in my entire life.
I'm beginning to like this kid, Ma.
Hit puree!
No, I'm too young.
They keep coming back to the Goonies, and there's a few moments that jumped out at me because I think, man, Brand is such a jerk. There's two things. For one thing, his brother is Mikey, who has asthma. He refers to his brother as limp lungs at one point. Oh my God. And there's another scene where Mikey is talking to the Goonies, kind of nerding out about One Eyed Willie and the Pirates. And Brand actually says, "Why couldn't I had a little sister instead of that?"
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, he sucks.
Yeah,
he's terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it felt like that line was really out of place. Like, why couldn't I have had a little sister?
Again, like there's a mean-spiritedness to this movie that I feel like it's at the screenplay level. Again, if there is a screenplay, and sometimes the actors feed into that, and sometimes there's kind of a sweetness to this movie that sometimes that gets kind of balanced off. But I don't know. Some of this movie leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I mean, let's just get right to Sloth. Sloth becomes a main character.
Well, so the Fratellis
They put Chunk down in the basement.
down there with him.
Yeah.
And they're both tied up watching TV together.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, but Sloth really takes to Chunk.
This is like something out of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this movie's playing it for hijinks and giggles. And I'm sorry, but this is really sick, okay?
Yeah.
And as a kid, like, I get it. I know what this movie is trying to do. They're trying to do to Sloth what Harry and the Hendersons did with Harry. He's adorable. He's like a Neanderthal. He has like the mind of a child. He's huge and powerful. It's like, wouldn't you want a Sloth or a Harry or an E.T. in your life? And to all three, I say, no.
You don't want an ET in your life?
I really don't want an E.T. in my
okay.
life. No,
Okay.
I don't know how I would have handled that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I mean, the Sloth, like, his ears actually, like, are animatronic.
They wiggle. Yeah, this is John Montezak, the late football player. I believe I'm saying his name right. John Montezak. He's just covered head to toe in this remarkable makeup and animatronic work, as you've said. And
I think it's just his head.
yeah.
Because
He's a big burly dude.
I mean, when you see him, like his arms and his like body, you can tell like, oh, okay, this is not like a guy, like this guy has been working out. He hasn't just been sitting watching TV and eating ice cream the way the character has been actually in the movie. Like you can tell it's not really the same.
Yeah, but let's also get really dark here. I mean, the way this character has been treated and the way his mind is, he's really only a few degrees away from the Gimp from Pulp Fiction. All right, this is sick. This is really weird.
I know, it's super weird. But what I'm saying is when you see him, like when you see his like muscularness, you know it's an actor. Like the Sloth I'm trying to say, like, if it was like a real person.
Yeah, do they let Sloth go out to a Gold's Gym and then come back
exactly,
into the basement? Yes,
exactly.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah, there's no way that he's
that in that good of shape.
And how and I mean, why hasn't he broken out and escaped and murdered the Fratellis and retaliated?
He escapes all the time apparently. And they keep chaining him up. So, but the reason he breaks his chains is to get this candy bar that Chunk tried to throw to him that landed on the ground.
Right.
And then they share the candy bar and like each take bites of it.
Gives him a kiss.
Yes, and then he kisses him. Oh my god.
And again, like I think
poor Chunk is just like, ah.
The movie wants us. They want us to feel about Sloth the way Han Solo feels about Chewbacca, and I'm just not buying it. I'm sorry, but this is really deranged. Like this movie doesn't know what to do with this character, so he just makes him wacky and sweet and. Okay, whatever, Goonies, but it's, that's and I'm not looking at this through a PC modern lens. I'm not. I'm looking at it just as a human being going like, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the kids are going through these tunnels.
Yes, meanwhile, yeah.
And then we get to see Data, who has all these, like, wacky, like, go-go gadgets under his jacket.
That's right.
I mean,
he's very Inspector Gadget. He's got a trench coat. You're right.
The most ridiculous one is when he like falls through the ground and this like spring shoots up with the fake teeth and holds his entire body weight.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way these plastic chatter teeth are holding anything.
There's a lot of logic problems in this movie, but there's also a lot of cartoonishness, and I think that's one of the most overtly cartoonish moments in the movie. Definitely.
Exactly. He's like, hey, guys.
Yeah. If anything, I mean, Data is so brilliant and resourceful, he should be the leader of the Goonies. Yeah. It shouldn't be Limp Lungs, as the older brother referred to him. It shouldn't be the jock who can't stop sucking face with the cheerleader. No, it should be Dana. Data should be clearly the leader of the Goonies.
Yeah, definitely. So,
because what does Mouth bring? Nothing.
Nothing. He speaks Spanish and can read Latin. apparently.
You're right. He is able to read Latin. Although, again, not to get too ahead of it, but like there is a point at the end. He's like, no, pen, no. Like he can't even like he remember like he can't come up with a word for no sign at the end of it.
Oh.
I thought like all the crazy pirate treasure map stuff he reads, and he can't think of the word sign at the end of the film.
I don't know. Maybe he's stressed. This is a very stressful situation.
You're right. He is very stressed. And I'm sure, like, going through the caves, he probably got that Purple Rain t-shirt really dirty. And that bothers me.
Oh, okay. Okay, so
Gotta
now
take better care.
So now we have one group, and then the Fratellis are chasing them.
Yes. The Fratellis are chasing Sloth and Chunk. No, no. Those two are, you're right. They're
at
behind.
the end.
Right. And then there's that insane, although, before we even get to, because, yeah, it's established that there's the three groups. But then there's this scene that, I mean, it feels like it's out of another movie. It's so crazy slapsticky where the first scene where the Goonies are underneath the Astoria Country Club.
Yeah.
And they take the pipes and they push them. So there's all these shenanigans. There's a bathroom that explodes. It's like, what is this?
Okay, so there's a guy sitting on a toilet.
And I think isn't it Troy, the bad guy?
I don't know who it is, but the water, like... It's this geyser that like pushes him off the toilet, like up into the air.
Right.
And what's crazy about that is that his shirt is like covering his privates.
It is a PG movie. I noticed that too.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess that's one way to do that.
You can't really like show genitalia in a Spielberg movie from the 80s.
Okay, well...
Maybe now, but yeah.
I just thought it was funny. Like, oh, okay, that's how they're going to hide everything? All right.
Or that guy just has a really funny way of going to the bathroom.
I guess. So...
He's like, I go to the Astoria Country Club. I don't take my clothes off.
I don't take my clothes off when
I just throw my clothes away at the end of the day.
When I go to the bathroom and he has like a book with him.
I'm disgusting.
Yeah, so that's crazy. And then, because Chunk and Sloth also find the pipes at some point and cause a car accident, like you said.
It's just, do pipes work this way? I'm not a plumber. I don't know. Are you able to push pipes up and make the pipes, act like a fire hose?
I don't know.
I say no.
Maybe
I don't think that.
If they're hundreds of years old, maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are hundreds of years old that work quite well in this movie.
And then at one point they come upon this wishing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think about that? I kind of thought it was cool to like see the inside of the wishing well.
Yeah. And then you get the Martin Sheen line, which I've always liked.
What?
Well, Mouth is looking through all the dead presidents on the coins, and he goes, Martin Sheen, he played Kennedy once. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But then Troy throws a coin into the wishing well, and then the coin like comes back up,
and he carefully choreographed catches it, which doesn't make any sense.
No, but his wish was to like make out with Andy, or something, and then Mikey convinces them all to keep going, and so they just send Troy's like Letterman sweater like back up the wishing well.
I don't get it. She was supposed to. She couldn't have fit through the well, could she have?
Yeah, they were
really. It was that big.
Yeah, they were all gonna like go up on the bucket and escape, but Mikey convinced them to keep going. Because it's our time.
It's our time, you guys.
It's our time. The grown-ups are up there, and we're down here.
Don't you realize? The next time you see Sky, it'll be over another town. The next time you take a test, it'll be in some other school. Our parents, they want the best of stuff for us. But right now they gotta do what's right for them. 'Cause it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here. That's all over the second we ride up Troy's bucket.
I don't know. The speech it's okay.
Again, in the 80s, totally down for it. It was like the William Wallace speech before battle. Our freedom! I look at it now and I would have gone home.
I would have gotten into that.
This is fun, Mikey.
Bucket.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Yeah. Like, go ahead, Troy. Pull me up.
Yeah.
So,
How sad. I would have gone home with Troy.
oh, but they were going to take the coins, and Steph is like, you can't take them. These are people's wishes. And Mouth is like, well, I'm going to take this one because it's my wish, and it didn't come true. I
Yeah,
was like,
Steph,
wow.
I'm taking my Martin Sheen coin.
I'm like, wow, that got dark. His wish didn't come true. Dang. All right.
So yeah. So we get into. I mean, what comes next?
I think we're at the piano trap.
I love the piano booby trap because like that's where I really question One Eyed Willie because this isn't just a mouse trap. It's so specific. It's like, yar, you gotta get the A sharp or the B flat or else you'll die.
Yeah, and they make
Oh,
Andy.
that'd be a treble clef. Death for ya.
So they're like, who knows how to play piano? And Andy's like, I played like 5 years ago. Like, oh my gosh, we're going to trust. Okay. But the other thing, though, Data saves the day with his slippery shoes.
This scene is this scene is exciting. I love this scene. And again, it has a lot to do with the music by David Grusin. I love the intercut that the Fratellis are slowly climbing towards them.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, whenever Andy gets the wrong note, which is often to this movie's credit, the ground breaks away from him. It's Indiana Jones, but it's also like American Idol. Yeah, I dig the heck out of it. Out of all the pirate traps, this is the one I'm like, this is cool. This works. This is weirder than anything in Indiana Jones because Indiana Jones was sort of like, hey kid, do you know how to play an accordion? Like this, it's just bizarre.
Yeah. And
A piano playing pirate. Who knew?
Who knew? But the Fratellis like slip on this log because Data
Has the slick shoes.
Yeah, got like oil all over it, which was funny. And then,
does he just load his shoes and just walk around all day with these squishy shoes?
I don't.
And wouldn't they be flammable?
Well, I think it's inside somewhere in a protected
Little protective pouch.
Yeah, a little protective pouch. He's smarter than that. He wouldn't just like be.
You're right. He is smarter than that.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
So what I think is hilarious is she finally gets all of the music and this, bridge falls down and they go across it. Instead of like making sure the bridge is up so the Fratellis can't go over it, what do they do? They grab the music and maybe it's the map because the music's on the back of the map.
Yeah, the notes. Yeah,
but they don't pull the bridge back up behind them. That would have kept the Fratellis from following them.
Though I do enjoy the reverse shots of the Fratellis following them because Anne Ramsey, when she runs, she grunts like a sow. It's like, I've always loved that.
That's so funny. Okay, is this when they go down the water slide?
Yeah.
Which is so crazy.
It's fun. I like this scene a lot.
It's great.
It's great.
I do feel like anytime like kids go down things like that, like in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, when they're going down big slides.
Yeah.
I always think like, who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah, even the movie that came out the same summer, Explorers, has a similar scene to it. Yeah, I love these kinds of scenes because, now that I'm old and cynical and, not a Goonie, I look at them and I go like, okay, clearly they're just going down the same slide over and over again. And they're shooting it from different angles and they're giving it some set dressing.
That's what they're doing?
Oh, sorry, am I ruining the illusion?
You just ruined the movie magic for me. It's not like a huge slide?
Well, maybe it's big. Maybe they really did film it in the Pirate Coves of Goondocks. The story is a real place after all. Maybe this movie's a documentary. I don't know.
So you think
I heard there were sets and stuff.
So you think it's just like a shorter slide?
Yes,
than what
they're
they
all
show?
on the same slide, so they just dress it up and they get different angles. It's like, okay, now Josh Brolin, you go down the slide, and the cinematographer is going after him. Great. Okay, now for you, and yeah. Wow, listeners, I just ruined this movie for Julia in real time. You heard it here.
Wow. I was just thinking like, wow, they built this like huge slide.
How much money do you think this movie cost? Yeah, I mean, it's like,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's one. It'll be what I suspect. I don't know for sure, but what I suspect, it's one big giant slide.
Well, I know it's one slide.
Yeah. I mean,
you're saying that it's shorter, and they just like film them going down the same pieces.
Yeah, the same pieces, and when you have the scene of them all shooting off different ones, I mean, that's another thing altogether. Though I think there is a matte painting there too. But yeah.
Wow. Okay, so they shoot off and they fall into this big pool.
Yes, which used to have the octopus scene right here, which I showed you the other night.
Yeah. That scene, you guys, if you just YouTube it, it is so funny because this octopus clearly faker than Jaws.
Oh, so fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, with like a big old eye, like
Googly
looking
eyes.
around.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
ridiculous.
It's-
Yeah. And do you remember how they stop the octopus?
No.
Data
yeah.
puts his Walkman radio into the octopus's mouth. The octopus is suddenly thrashing around, but it's set to the music.
It can still, it's like it can hear the music and it's like dance swimming away.
Yeah, dance swimming away. Yeah, so like the octopus is either dying or he is just like really getting down to like Debbie Gibson or whoever's on the soundtrack. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty silly. So they cut that out.
Yes. Probably for the best.
Yeah, and they swim and climb up onto the big pirate ship. So that's when, I don't know, they wander around. They're trying to find treasure. And then Mikey...
Where's the jewels? Where's the jewels? Yeah, and Mikey climbs up into the deck and finds One Eyed Willie by himself. And
Well, he's sitting around with his homies, all the like skeletons.
it's pretty crazy. Like, were they poisons? Did they just get so old? They're like, let's die in a way that's cool looking. They'll find us and we'll be cool looking pirates.
I mean, poisoned is probably a good guess.
Yeah, they poison each other. They starve to death, or they just talked until they died. I have no. Yeah, it's very decorative, is the way they find them. But
Yeah, but Mikey is just having like a moment with this
corpse.
Yeah, it's very strange.
It's odd. And the boys come in and apparently they were standing there a long time listening to him monologue with the corpse. Okay, but they immediately start taking the jewels.
And then they were going to take a handful from this one area, and Mikey's like, no, that's Willie's. So,
I mean, it's all Willie's, but okay, Mikey.
yeah, but the one part that he's, quote, looking at with his one good eye,
Yeah.
he died staring at his coins. I mean, that kind of seems sad to me.
It's very Scrooge McDuck is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just start filling up their pockets and everything. And then who shows up? The Fratellis.
And I'll tell you, listeners, this is where I think this is where the movie kind of goes bye-bye for me. It's like the Fratellis show up and there's a lot of talk, but it's, I don't know. Like I feel like the movie kind of loses its
Steam.
Well, for like the action stops. It's a lot of standing around and monologuing. There's not a lot of tension because the Fratellis, who were established again at the beginning of the movie as cutthroat, psychotic, scary, it's very buffoonish at this point. Mm-hmm. It's so silly, and that's even before Sloth shows up.
They do make Andy walk the plank.
Yeah, but I mean, as we've seen, Andy, is going to be just fine because she just went down a water slide and landed in a big pool, and she'll be okay.
But she was tied up, so Brand had to jump in and save her.
Well, any opportunity to lock tongues with that girl Brand is all about that.
Okay, so then who shows up to save the day?
Oh man!
Hey, you guys!
Oh gosh! Yeah, and he's wearing a pirate hat, which I guess he acquired while he was in the tunnel.
Yeah. There must have been lots of hats just lying around.
Yeah, so Sloth and Captain Chunk show up to save the day. And then you have the moment. It's a nod, obviously, to Richard Donner's prior movie, but like Sloth rips open his shirt and he's wearing a Superman shirt. And that's, to me, I'm just like, okay, this is a cartoon at this point. I had problems with logic earlier, but this is just so ridiculous. And it's weird, too, because there's that weird bit where the Fratellis are trying to subdue Sloth by treating him like a 2-year-old playing,
And trying to tie him up.
But then there's that line where Mrs. Fratelli admits that she dropped him.
Yeah, she's like, I know I dropped you as a baby, which is like why he, I guess, is mentally handicapped.
It's so insane. It's like, this is like the don't burn the baby scene from Rain Man. It's like, it's so upsetting.
Yeah, because it's like, okay, he has a cone head, like literally.
Yes.
And his eyes are all messed up.
Trying to escape from each other.
Yeah. And so it's like, how many times did you drop this child? And like, I'm surprised he lived. Like, that's how bad it probably was.
But again, of course, the movie doesn't want to deal with any of that stuff. Everything here is we're talking about a Saturday morning cartoon level of logic and emotional stakes. But yeah, so Mrs. Fratelli, Miss Mama Fratelli just gets pushed off the pirate ship, and yay, Sloth wins, and the kids all manage to get out of the tunnel.
And this is where Sloth helps them with his big muscles
and super strength. Yeah. And outside of the in the beach, which the movie establishes, what's the name of it?
Cannon Beach.
Yeah, this is they call it Cauldron Point, but the movie was shot at Cannon Beach, Oregon. This part of it, anyway. And there's two cops on the beach who sees them, and one of them is played by Richard Donner. Oh. And Richard Donner calls them goobers, and I wonder, like, was there? Wait a second. Did this movie used to be called The Goobers? Are there like T-shirts that never went outside of Warner Brothers that used to say "Goobers Never Say Die"? Yeah, so he calls them the Goobers. It's like, okay, come on, you goobers, like goobers.
And then all the parents, like all the kids,
they all just show up like it's a PTA meeting, right?
Yeah,
they're all on the
there.
beach, and each kid has the moments with the parents.
Yeah,
it's so sappy and syrupy, but. Well, okay. I've always liked the scene with Data and his family.
Yeah.
That's always my favorite. I've always found that so moving. How he calls his son, "You are my greatest invention." I've always liked that so much.
Well, because they're so sweet.
Yeah, they are. Again, like it's a sweetness that the rest of the movie doesn't really have. This is kind of a mean-spirited film, I think.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Well, it seems like Data's parents are the sweetest, most engaged parents.
Bran's a jerk. He's such a jerk. And Mikey's sweet. Although this is weird. There's that moment where he's on the beach and he tosses his inhaler. He's like, "Oh, who needs it?" I'm like, "You do, kid. Don't toss your inhaler. Just because you found your pirate friend doesn't mean like you didn't conquer asthma. You found gold. You found a pirate ship. You need your inhaler, kid. You're about to die in the beach. You're going to be just like One Eyed Willie in just a minute."
Do you know how expensive those inhalers are?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, so then this is also where...
Well, conveniently, Troy and his dipstick dad show up as well.
Yeah, and he's like, "You have to sign this, like, sign over your house right now because it's being foreclosed on." And then this is where the Rosalita finds all those...
Which doesn't make any sense to me now, looking at it. Like why is she going through their stuff?
Why is she even there?
I'm sure she's not making much money off of Mikey and Bran's mom. It's like, she's like, well, I'm gonna go through this kid's pockets, grab something, and get the heck out of here.
Yeah, but she finds all of the jewels.
Yeah. And
then is trying to talk to them. And of course, Mouth, this is where he...
No pen? No sign! Right. So Rosalita is also a hero of this film because she managed to intervene in time. And the father has... this actor plays this scene for the hills. Like, there'll be no signing today or ever. And he rips up the paper. Like, wait a second. Maybe you should have had more of a conversation before you come to that conclusion. Yeah, because we look at the jewels... And like I told you, like, man, these are the most unimpressive pirate jewel props ever. They look like something you could get like at the Hello Kitty store.
Yeah. Looking at them, I don't know. This seems...
Like,
it's costume jewelry.
Yeah, like how much are these worth? Like the gold is one thing. Diamonds are one thing.
If he had a bag of gold, way more like believable.
This looks like stuff that would be like bedazzled on the side of Elton John's coat. And I mean, no offense to Elton John or his coat, but still, that's not gold and diamonds, which would be more impressive.
Right.
If they had doubloons, that's one thing, but this is corny.
Yeah, it's way corny. And I don't know now. So what? Troy's dad just like walks off with his tail between his legs.
I guess we'll do a golf course somewhere else.
Guess I'm not gonna try and blow up Astoria and make a golf course. And
we'll just have to go to Hawaii and set up golf courses there. That's why he's the true villain of the film.
And then, Sloth shows up. And,
of course he does.
And Chunk's like, "I love you, Sloth, and you're living with me now."
Oh my gosh!
And when he said that, I was like, "Is Chunk's mom just like freaking out? Like, what?"
She's like, "Sure, you could have this mentally impaired middle-aged man come stay with us now. Absolutely, son.
Yes, I will adopt him. I have no idea who this is."
Like,
What's
well,
going
you
on?
wanted a puppy, we didn't get you the puppy, but yes, we'll have this thing stay with you.
Yeah, we don't know him or his history. It's fine.
He's barely articulate. He looks like he's darn near 60. Sure, he could stay with us.
He looks like he's 60. Oh my gosh. Mom, he only eats ice cream. Oh, okay, that's fine. Just kidding. That's not a line in the movie.
Lunchtime, baby Ruth. Yeah.
So they capture the Fratellis and
It's the tidiest ending ever. And then, of
Yeah.
course, the ship sets sail.
Yes,
Yeah.
the ship sets sail. Oh, because the Fratellis set off the final. They took One Eyed Willie's.
And by the way,
Gold.
I think everybody on the beach knows that ship is just loaded with treasure. You'd figure that certainly like Troy and his yuppie scum posse, you figure they would all just immediately just take off and start swimming towards that ship.
I don't know. They're all looking at it like, wow.
Like, wow, it's so beautiful. No, man, there's like, I mean, if the costume jewelry is really worth as much as they say it is, there's like millions of dollars just like floating off to sea.
Well, so they set off the final booby trap.
Yeah.
When they took the gold. So
Yeah, but you figure like these yuppie scum would at least get on some jet skis and head out there. Like, man, like we'll build some golf courses. Like, we'll just cover Texas with golf courses.
oh my god.
Forget a story, man. Let's go where the money really is.
Okay, and then what Andy says something to Mikey. She's like, "You keep kissing like that, and you're not gonna have any problem with the ladies." I'm like, this is ew.
Yeah,
And Brand
it's
and
awful.
Andy just like start making out in front of his parents, and the mom just looks at the dad like, well, nothing we can do about it. It's so weird.
So who is Andy going with to the prom? Is she going with Mikey or
No,
Brad?
she's going with Brand. Because even though she like had a little makeout session with Mikey, she's still into Brand.
Wonder if she's like, Brand, have you ever thought about getting braces? Because it kind of does it for me. I miss that feel of tin next to your tongue.
Gross.
It's creepy, all right? Like, I question the scene, one of my favorite movies of this decade, Big. I question the whole thing of, like, Elizabeth Perkins, having a romance with Tom Hanks, who's supposed to be a little boy in that film. That's one thing. This is, like, on the surface, inappropriate.
Oh, making out in front of their parents?
Well, that and just being like, oh, well, we made out, but I'm going to hang out with your brother. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Andy is really not again, like, some of these Goonies are really awful. She's one of the awful ones.
Oh, yeah, because there's one part where they're early on in the cave when she's like, I should have just let Troy stare at my body. Like, why did I leave? I have a nice body. What is... It's like, shut up,
Yeah,
Andy.
she has like a breakdown in the cave. Yeah. I think of out of the actors, I'd say Martha Plimpton is really good. She's got some real sharp moments. Carrie Green is good, but the character is terrible.
Okay, do Mouth and Steph get together at the end?
Yes. I
Which
think
is
I
so
think so,
strange.
kind of. I think it's probably just like the shock of having gone through all that together and they're still like standing. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because they basically just insult each other and it's like yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But really, the love story of the movie is Chunk and Sloth. Let's just say it. That's the true scorching romance of the Goonies.
Oh my gosh. That's true though.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah. Because
There's gonna be a snuggle party at Chunk's house that night.
Oh my gosh. That's just so
With
weird.
a fully grown man in a muscle t-shirt and jeans.
It's just weird.
Do you think he's ever changed? He's probably been wearing those tight jeans and that Superman shirt like probably since the 70s, right?
I don't know. Okay, so
Is he even potty trained?
what? This is I
mean, down in that basement, do you think there's like a bucket or
don't know what their
Other than
torture
turn-
device are down there,
They
what they're
turn the
doing.
TV. I mean, like, again, like look, I'm making light of this because for one thing, it's a movie, okay? Like, obviously, how I feel about something like this in real life is one thing, but like, I mean, what Sloth has experienced is really not that far removed from the people under the stairs.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
The
disturbing.
more it's so clearly I need to stop talking about it, because the more you think about it, it's like this baggage this movie does not know what to do with.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's basically the end, right?
Yeah, Cyndi Lauper starts playing her song, and
Oh,
the movie's over.
I mean, that song just comes blasting at
Oh,
the
yeah.
end credits, like out of nowhere, like because they have this really nice moment, like watching the pirate ship, and then it's
Yeah.
just like,
Get it up.
yeah, it's just like, whoa, it's jarring.
Yeah, they don't trust David Grusin's music to give you the chills. Like, okay, movie's over. Gotta clean this auditorium. Get out of the theater.
Yeah, take your garbage and get out of here.
Get out of the theater, you goobers, you goonies, you boonies, whatever you're called. Yeah,
All right, so that's Goonies.
that's
I
the
mean,
Goonies. Yeah.
So, what would you change the ending of this movie, or is there a lot you would change?
Well, I I think a good rewrite would get rid of Sloth. I think Chunk, God, Lawrence is the character's name. I think there's a way to have his journey be more not only dignified, but I think he could prove himself to be heroic in other ways other than, being basically adopting Sloth, for Pete's sake. Yeah, there's a lot I would do differently today. They've never done a sequel, which is interesting because there's been talks of it. And you know what? As we say this, Top Gun Maverick it's closing in on $600 million, and it's only been in theaters for a month. Mm-hmm. So I suspect right now at Warner Brothers, like, okay, what do we got? Goonies? We'll do Goonies too. I'm sure we're gonna see a parade of '80s hit sequels.
The 80s are big right now.
Very big at the moment. So yeah, we'll probably get Goonies 2. But they did a Nintendo game called The Goonies 2, and it was basically like it had mermaids in it. It was okay, but I they'd never made a movie from that. There's been all these talks and rumors over the years. What I've always wanted to see, because this movie makes a reference to Gremlins, because Chris Columbus also wrote Gremlins, and there's a scene where Chunk calls the local police department, and the cop is going, "Oh, this is like that time you told us about those creatures that you don't feed after midnight." It's a really nice nod to Gremlins. I would have loved for it to be in the same world. And Gremlins, another Amblin movie, another Spielberg produced film, where you actually just see like a big horde of gremlins just let loose in the tunnel. I think the Gremlins would be just as fun, because the Fratellis would be just as at odds dealing with the Gremlins as the Goonies would.
You want to bring back the Fratellis?
I think it's going to be like Home Alone 2. I think they're going to go to jail, and then they're going to get out of jail, and they're going to want revenge. Yeah, I think absolutely. The problem, let's see, unfortunately, we lost Anne Ramsey in '88, I think. But we still have Joe Pantoliano, and we still have Robert Davi. So yeah.
Well, maybe it would be like
You bring back the Fratellis, it'll be just like
kids.
Home Alone 2. I've heard that too. People have said like the Goonies sequel would have to be about the kids, and I'd want to see the original gang. I would want to see a bunch of 50-year-old Goonies running through the caves.
Do they have to run through the same caves?
Not the same caves, but
they need to go on a different adventure, not in Astoria.
Do you think that a Goonies sequel wouldn't involve pirates? I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah, I think it could involve something else.
Like,
I don't know.
Like The Lost City? Like that kind of thing where they're in the jungle looking for...
Yeah, I guess so.
Do you think these kids, removed decades from the 80s, would even be proud of the fact that they once were all part of a gang called the Goonies?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who knows where they ended up in life?
And that's why I'd want a sequel, because I'm like, yeah, I would want to know what happened to them. And it would be nice to actually get some dimension to them. It's considering
maybe they all come back for their high school reunion. Mm-hmm. And then they go into the basement of their high school, and that's when they discover a different treasure map.
Or maybe it's like Mystic River, where they all come back to the town because Chunk has been murdered by Sloth. And Sloth is loose in the town, so they have to find Sloth.
Okay, no, that's too dark. That's way too dark. Oh my gosh. At this point,
yeah,
Sloth would probably have passed away. Because you said he was 60 back then.
Yeah, I'm going with 60. He had a little tuft of hair. I mean, he looked kind of like Spider-Pig from the Simpsons movie.
Yeah.
In fact, he looks a lot like Spider-Pig from the Simpsons movie. By the way, for those of you who are going like, that's so insensitive, John Montezak, who played Sloth, looks nothing like, I mean, covered in makeup. The character is a complete fabrication. It's not like they've like, oh, that actor was kind of funny looking. No, that actor looks nothing like that character.
Well, and that actor's not even around
He's
anymore.
not with us anymore.
So I think there's no Sloth in a sequel.
I'm fine with that. And I don't want Sloth to be like, oh, the son of Sloth. No, Sloth never had children. No.
And the guy who played Lawrence, Chunk, isn't an actor anymore.
He's a lawyer.
So I don't know if he'd be able to come back either.
I don't know if he'd want to come back too. Yeah.
But you could
Corey Feldman would definitely come back. He'd be the first one to sign on.
And Josh Brolin.
That would be super cool. Like, I'd love to see Brolin do this again. Yeah.
And then Sean Astin.
Yeah, those are the two big
Data.
names. Yeah, and Keo Kwan. Yeah, they definitely, those are the big names.
If those four guys came back, I think it'd be cool. And maybe the girls, I don't know.
So, well, let's continue with this. So, I think we can assume that Brand and Andy are married, right?
Oh, okay.
They're married out of high school. So maybe they're kids.
Maybe they're having like marriage problems. And
like,
instead of making out in the tunnel, they fight in the tunnel.
But once they're back on adventures, that's when the making out comes back. It's like, oh man, this is what we've been missing.
Yeah. It's like how Stella got her groove back in a tunnel.
In a tunnel, wow. That's a Hollywood pitch right there. It's like how Stella got her groove back, but in a tunnel with pirate corpses. and
booby traps.
And pianos, yes.
These ideas.
Something for the kids.
Yeah, these ideas are gold, you guys.
Gold. We should TM this stuff for right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Data would probably have a family. I think he'd be like his parents.
Like his
he'd be
dad.
a family man. Yeah. Chunk, it's not happening with Chunk.
No.
I think Chunk probably is like the manager of a supermarket. Failed supermarkets. I think he's like had a bunch of failed supermarkets. I think Chunk is probably like on unemployment at this point, living by himself.
Okay, what about Mouth?
Mouth. I think Mouth is probably a college professor. He probably gives like lectures on local pirate legends and whatnot. And I think Mikey is probably doing tour guides. He's probably like giving tours of like, and this is where he saw One Eyed Willie.
Oh, you think he's still in Astoria?
I think he never left Astoria. Yeah.
Giving tours.
Yeah, giving tours.
All right.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, and Josh Brolin's Brand, I think he's the one who I think the idea is that he and Andy moved to the city and they found success, and then they come back to Astoria and they are the ones who kind of put everything together. So it becomes, as you said, the high school reunion movie. So it becomes like the big chill, but then it becomes about like, oh, like what if, turns out there's not one ship, but two ships. So they got to find the second ship is where the real gold is, not the costume jewelry, but like the doubloons.
Maybe we find out that, what if we found out that the dad lost the house anyways?
I like that a lot. Yeah, so that means all the things that happened in the first movie are completely moot.
Yeah.
So I love that.
So they have to like do it again to like prove themselves.
Find
the real treasure.
Yeah, I like that.
Because they're like, oh man, this really was from Elton John's coat.
Elton John cameo as himself. And Mouth has to be married to Steph, so that's how you get Martha Plimpton and Corey Feldman back in there. They're married.
Okay.
Yeah. Divorced. They're divorced.
Oh, good. Yeah. That makes more sense.
Yeah, they got married, they divorced, they got back together briefly, but then they divorced. And at the end of the film...
They got divorced 2 times?
Two times. And at the end of the film, they're still not together.
They don't find love in the cave like Brand and Andy?
You can only have one cave love story. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we have one couple finding love again and the others just like fighting all the time.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
Checks out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Okay, I like this.
Yeah, some gritty, hardcore realism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what are you going to call it?
Goonies Back to the Cave? I don't know.
Cave. I love it. I can see that on a t-shirt. I mean, look, if it's Top Gun Maverick, I mean, think of it that way. What would you title it?
Goonies, I don't know.
Goonies Chunk.
No, because Chunk's not in it.
Chunk will be in it?
No, he's not. Because he's not acting anymore.
Oh, okay. Oh, so like you're not really. Oh, okay. So like you're writing the character out of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chunk and Sloth are not in this one.
Wow.
It's the other one.
So they're gonna so Chunk will be for this movie what Meg Ryan was for
Yes.
Top Gun Maverick. They're just gonna kill Chunk
They're
off.
just no, because I did not agree with that choice for Meg Ryan. They're just gonna say he is also on the East Coast in Maine fishing.
Or do you
lobster
want
fishing.
or do you want to say that like maybe Chunk and Sloth went on a road trip like Thelma and Louise and they just like drove off a cliff together?
Hey, you guys!
Yeah, totally. I can see that. This movie just gets better and
Wow.
better. Yeah.
Okay. That sounds fun. All right. Well, how many stars do you give the Goonies?
2.5.
Oh, wow.
It's good. It's good. And I think it's once we get past all the talkity talk at the beginning, it gets really exciting and it's very brisk. It goes by very quickly. The best scenes of the film go by really quickly, and the worst scenes of the movie go by very quickly.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I like about the movie, because when it flops hard, but it always goes on to something else. It doesn't waste even like the coolest parts, whether we're talking about, the water shoot, like the best scenes of this movie. I mean, they're very fast, and I think again, like I've always felt like Donner is really good with sequences and action and that sort of thing. So I think. Yeah, I like the movie. I do think I think it's chaotic and kind of annoying. And maybe just because I'm older now and I don't find these kids as endearing as I used to. Yeah, do you like the film?
Yeah, I liked it more than I thought I would after seeing it so many times back in the day. But yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. Like the first half hour, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what are we doing?
After that really brisk and exciting, exhilarating opening scene with the car chase and meeting each of the gang, like, which is such a great introduction. It's such a rip roaring scene, and then it's just this slog of like, we're gonna lose our house, and let's just sit around and talk. And
I feel like they could have cut out 10 minutes.
I think we could have started with Mikey going through the treasure map. We could have started with like, hey, like, let's do this. This is something we've been planning. This is the plan. This is the idea. As opposed to I'm like, hey, we can go and find this. We could be the ones. Chester Cobblepot didn't do it. We could do it. Like, no, like
and get rid of the mom and Rosalita.
Like, that's just dead weight. Yeah, big time.
Get rid of.
Please explain how she broke her freaking arm.
Get rid of the, I don't know, shuffle. What is it?
The truffle shuffle,
yeah.
please.
Like, get rid of all that stuff.
Yeah.
They're really, it's stupid.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And give Data more to do. And make Data the head Goonie. He's the one who started the gang. I don't know if gang is even the right word in this case. The club, if you will. Yeah, have Data be the leader of it. Don't make it Mikey, the poor asthmatic limp lung brother. To quote Brand.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 2.5 stars is pretty generous.
I like the movie. I do. I mean, I loved it when I was a kid and watched it incessantly. But yeah, looking at it now, I mentioned the movie Explorers. I like that film better. And if we're going to go with a Corey Feldman movie, too, Stand By Me, I prefer. But, I mean, if we're going to go an 80s classic that has a young teen ensemble, Lost Boys all the way. I'm a huge Lost Boys fan.
Love
that movie.
I don't love vampire movies, but
that movie's awesome.
I love Lost Boys.
There are vampire movies and there's the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was one of the Frog Brothers in that movie, and Corey Haim's in that movie too. So you got the two Corys.
I do love the Lost Boys.
Yeah, one of the best uses of the Santa Monica Boardwalk ever.
No, Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk.
Thank you, Santa Cruz.
Dare you?
Santa Cruz, thank you. Oh man, I can never show my face there again.
We went on a Lost Boys tour in Santa Cruz.
We did, and that was fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, Goonies Never Say Die, and this movie is not going anywhere. It's not a cult film, folks. It's not a cult film.
Here we go again.
But it is a classic. It is a classic, and I don't love it as much as I used to because it's the adventures of a bunch of kids and a mentally impaired middle-aged man who is, treated like he's just the most adorable thing ever, when really it's like
a very dark history for the Fratelli family.
Oh my gosh, they are sick, twisted people, nasty people. It's like it's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre somehow managed to get itself into this Spielberg children's film. But whatever, the film works. Yeah.
All right. Well,
are we going to show our daughter this movie?
Oh,
how about we wait a decade?
Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
I agree.
Yeah. So
gotta explain her. Okay, Beatrice, that's called sucking face in a cave.
Yeah, there's like too many things that I think
Way
I'd be
too
like,
much stuff.
ooh,
That's a whole, okay, let's hit pause, have an hour-long discussion, and then continue with it. Yeah, too much of that.
sounds super fun.
Yeah.
No.
By the way, this is our 50th episode. Boomsy.
Oh,
50th episode.
wow.
Our 50th time we've
50th
done this.
episode.
Now, there are some episodes that we have not released to the public yet, some podcasting gold that we're just sitting on, like One Eyed Willie. But this is the 50th episode you and I have recorded for So I Married a Film Critic.
All right.
Milestone.
There might be some that we never put out, though, that we've recorded.
Oh, it'll see the light of day.
All right, maybe. All right. All right. if
Or maybe
you-
not.
Anyways, follow us on our Instagram, So I Married a Film Critic, and let us know if there's any movies you would like us to talk about.
Thank you, Michelle, for the recommendation. Keep them coming. And for all of you listening, and it's really cool that we have listeners all the way in Virginia and California, Colorado, all over. Love it. Love you all. Thank you all so much for listening. Please keep your recommendations and your questions coming, and we'll be here for you.
All right. Good night.
Night, everyone.